Okay. Well, as you all probably know by now, the president is not arriving today as originally scheduled because of a developing domestic situation. He'll be here tomorrow. He's expected to arrive sometime around noon, a little after 12, um, to um, to participate in the ASEAN summit and in the bilaterals that have been scheduled. Because of the slight change in schedule, I cannot give you the exact itinerary, but some of the things that may have been bumped off are we're trying to reschedule them. No, there was supposed to be a bilateral, for example, with Thailand, which was scheduled for yesterday morning. We're trying to see if that can be rescheduled. The president will miss the opening plenary, but he is expected to attend the retreat and all of the other sessions that are scheduled for him, including a bilateral with the United States, which is expected to take place on Friday morning. Beyond that, the details of the schedules are still being worked out, and as soon as we have them, we'll give them to you. Well, the only bilat I can say for sure that will push through will be the one with President Obama. There are other bilats that were scheduled, but since we're working around the revisions, I cannot be absolutely sure which of the other bilats will push through. Both, actually. Well, the presence of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was already factored in. But as you know, yesterday there was a bit of drama at the NAIA. Former President Arroyo attempted to leave the country despite the fact that there are pending cases against her. And the Justice Department had barred her from leaving, causing a bit of a stir at the airport yesterday. So that was one of the domestic occurrences that we needed to attend to.
But does his presence matter, sir, in making the decisions on GMA?
It does matter. In the end, the decisions will belong to the president, and we are making sure that the decisions are correct and that they are executed properly. Now that we have been assured of that, the president is coming to Bali.
Hi, Secretary. So, but the GMA issue is not a distraction for the president to be attending the summit.
No, I think
and it's focus on the summit.
Yes, the president will be fully engaged in the summit when he arrives. They just needed to attend to that situation yesterday and make sure that that had been handled properly. And after which he will be arriving here and he will be fully engaged in the ASEAN summit. Hi, guys. Initially scheduled for U.S., United Nations, Thailand, Laos. We don't know yet. We're definite that the U.S. will push through. There's still some question about the other three given the change in schedule. But as soon as we know for sure, we'll let you know.
Sir, did you mention supposed to be Thailand?
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah.
How about with Ban Ki-moon, sir? Do they have a one-on-one or some bilateral meetings?
That was initially scheduled, but we're trying to see whether that the schedules can still accommodate that. There has been a little bit of a shuffling of the schedule because of the late arrival of the president.
So, sir, but the president is leaving as scheduled on Saturday, or will he also leave on Friday?
I'm not sure about that yet. I hope you'll forgive me kung wala pa tayong masyadong detalye doon, but that's all being worked out in Manila with the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. As soon as we get definite word of the revisions in the schedule, we'll let you know.
On the decision of the DOJ to bar the GMA despite the SC ruling,
Yeah.
is the president standing by the DOJ secretary, even at the
Yes.
risk of facing contempt charges?
Yes, we are, and I'd like to thank you for the question. I'd like to remind you that the TRO was never actually served to the DOJ. The only reason that we knew that there was a TRO was because of a press conference by the court administrator. Now, as the lawyers will tell you, you don't execute an order from the Supreme Court based on a press conference. You base it on the legal document, which was never served to the Department of Justice, despite the fact that the Supreme Court office and the Department of Justice office are not very far away. I mean, you can actually walk from one office to the other. So without any legal, physical order, we would not be able to enforce anything. It's curious that they would go and hold a press conference without actually serving the TRO to the DOJ, which is the body that was supposed to have implemented the order.
We're confident we can overcome any charges to be filed for contempt against the DOJ and
We
eventually
think-
against the executive
We
department.
think we stand on solid legal ground in taking the actions that we have.
Hi, sir. Sir, si Secretary De Lima has already received a copy of the order of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And with Mr. Marquez saying that it's effective immediately, does this mean that GMA can leave today?
It will depend on what actions the DOJ decides to take. There are certain legal avenues that are open to us, no? So na-serve na po yung TRO. If I understand correctly, we do have legal remedy. We can file a motion for reconsideration or something like that. Other legal avenues can be taken. So the exact actions and the timing will be left to the DOJ in Manila to decide.
Sir, but how do you reconcile that? Because the Supreme Court said it's effective immediately regardless of a pending motion for reconsideration.
Well, we'll leave the DOJ to decide how it appreciates that statement of the Supreme Court. No, what I understand normally is when there's a TRO issued, then you do have legal recourse through a motion for reconsideration or other such legal avenues. So I don't see why we would be deprived of those remedies that are available to anybody who's facing that kind of litigation.
Sir, there are some sectors saying that this might lead to a constitutional crisis. And also, how did the President take the ruling of the Supreme Court? Was he mad? Was he
I wasn't with the
disappointed?
president when he took when he received the news, no. But it was curious. We found it curious. Those of us who were aware of it found it curious that, there was a press conference and then there was no actual order given at the time. Parang inuna pa yung press conference dun sa actual process, the legal process. So medyo nakapagtataka yung ginawa nilang procedure. I don't know if I wouldn't call it that at this point. I think you have one interpretation of the law from the Arroyo camp, one interpretation of the law from the government, and there are ways that this can be resolved. So I would not call it at this point a constitutional crisis.
Sir, what is the advice of your lawyers? Is it not the mere holding of the press conference enough notice for the government to say
No.
that the ruling of the Supreme
No,
Court?
it is not. I think the legal process is very clear. Again, I'm not a lawyer, no, but I think if you talk to the lawyers, it's very clear. You do not execute an order based on a press conference. It's based on the physical serving of the order of the Supreme Court. I have never seen a case where based on a press conference, you're expected to execute an order. In many cases we've seen in the past, which you have reported, people wait for the actual serving of the order before they actually implement it. So this should be no different.
Hi,
It's
sir.
surprising that that they expected us to act in the absence of that physical order.
Hi, sir. Secretary De Lima has argued that we will bar the former president until the court rules on a motion for reconsideration.
Mhm.
And we agree with that position. Malacanang agrees
We
with
agree
that
with the
position.
position of the Secretary of Justice, yes.
Good morning, sir. Sir, was the Malacanang surprised with the decision, knowing that the majority of the Supreme Court justices are Arroyo appointees?
No, we weren't surprised. We were prepared for any contingency. Whether they ruled in favor of us or against us, we were prepared.
Secretary, do you think the Arroyos, there was a press conference and then they immediately had some bookings. So do you think they were doing this in bad faith, especially the conditions of the court said that within 5 days they have to post this 2 million pesos bond. Within 5 days they have to appoint their legal representatives. conditions were not yet met, and yet they had bookings already.
Yeah, that's curious. I won't ascribe any bad faith at this point, but it is curious because once you receive a court order, how long does it take you to book a ticket to go somewhere? You don't. That doesn't happen instantly. So it is a little surprising. But beyond that, Maria, I will not speculate. Wala bang ASEAN related?
Later na lang. Sir, why the rush to leave? Kasi they had to take the Dragon Air flight at night. And also, do you have any information na baka nga, meron na ba kayong solid information na baka nga hindi na bumalik? So, there was this rush to get out of the country right after getting the TRO.
Sa ngayon, hindi ako magsa-speculate dyan, no? Kung ano sila, kung babalik sila o hindi, kung may parang bad faith. All I can say is this, that we believed that the justifications that Mrs. Arroyo presented to travel, which were legal justifications, were not valid based on our examination of the medical abstract, our consultation with the medical experts, and Secretary Ona's own consultation with the president, former president herself. It was also curious that there were a number of different versions of the request to leave. The versions sent to the House of Representatives was different from the version sent to the Department of Justice. So we believe that there was some flight risk involved, obviously. So we believe that we acted in a prudent manner in this case. There was a potential for flight.
Sir, just taking off from the possibility of constitutional crisis, is the executive department prepared to go head-to-head with the Supreme Court on this issue?
We're prepared to do what we believe is right and legal. Again, I will not speculate on what you call a constitutional crisis. I don't think we're at a point right now where sasabihin, where we would describe this as a constitutional crisis. It is a situation where we have one interpretation of the law and the Arroyos have another interpretation.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, Senator Chis Escudero is saying that with the events last night, parang the government that was given former President Arroyo the arm, the camp of the former president to seek political asylum.
I don't know. I won't comment on that.
Another one, sir, Senator Soto is saying that the government should focus on more important problems of the government and leave the former president to the courts.
When it's not mutually exclusive, we can focus on the programs that we've been working on for the last year and a half, and we can also focus on this. We believe this is an important matter. It's an important matter with regard to accountability and preventing abuses in the past from occurring again. And this is a significant issue, and I think it's only right that we pay proper attention to this situation.
Sir, the SE set several conditions now to prevent Jimmy from evading justice. Are you appeased? Do these conditions suffice?
I will leave the determination of that to the Justice Department. Those are legal conditions that at this point, I'm not qualified to make any comment on. So, better for the Justice Department to answer that question.
But as far as the government is concerned, takot pa rin kayo na baka hindi pa rin siya bumalik?
I think that's a valid concern. There was some, based on our evaluation, there was some possibility, not remote, of flight. And we acted based on our appreciation of that possibility.
Despite these conditions set by the SE?
Well, yes.
Sir, your comment that the Arroyo thing now is already political persecution?
No, it is accountability. We were elected in part to extract accountability from public officials of the past administration. We are simply doing what we promised the people we would do. And I think if you look at the public opinion, it is squarely behind us.
Sir,
Question. why is the government taking so time in filing a single case against the Arroyos?
I think we want to file cases that are solid rather than cases that make a big splash but then would be difficult to prosecute. We would rather take our time and file a proper case, a strong case, rather than rush to file cases which would not prosper. So we're erring on the side of caution. Also, you have to remember that when you're looking at situations like this, the process of gathering evidence is not always easy. Witnesses, understandably, are reluctant to talk. So the process of building the case is not without its challenges, and that took some time.
Doesn't the president feel disappointed with Secretary De Lima? Because if she acted more quickly, although you said that it's hard to build up on these cases, this wouldn't have had happened.
I'm not aware that the president has expressed any disappointment in Secretary De Lima. And again, we could file cases that would make a big splash but may not necessarily prosper, or we could take our time and build a solid case. And I think the preference and the course that we've taken is to take our time and build as solid a case as possible. This is not the last case that will be filed.
So sorry. Reconcilable ba yun na you're taking your time building your case but then you're not allowing her also to leave? Eh,
Well,
wala ngang
Nag-umpisa na kasi,
warrant.
Joyce, yung proseso no? May preliminary investigation at kinakailangan humarap siya doon, no? So, it's that portion of the process where kinakailangan yung presence ni dating Pangulo. So, I think it's just proper that we did what we did.
What other issues? Other issues. ma'am.
Other issues?
Sir, other issues first.
Anyone interested in ASEAN?
Yes,
Beautiful
sir.
weather here in Bali, huh?
Yes, sir. About the, can you give us some talking points or the agenda of the president's meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama?
I won't go into specifics about the meeting with President Obama, no? But as you know, Secretary Clinton is in Manila today. President Obama has been making the rounds of the region. I think what's very clear is that the United States wants to re-engage itself in the Asia-Pacific region, especially now that they're winding down their commitments to other parts of the world. The Asia-Pacific region has become much more important to them economically and politically. And what we're seeing are manifestations of that increased importance that Asia-Pacific, including the Philippines, is taking. And I'm sure the discussions between the two leaders will hew to that general theme. As you know, let me give you a little bit more. There are economic and security ties that we have long-standing with the Americans, which certainly will be discussed.
Will President Aquino take advantage of this move by the United States to re-engage the Asia-Pacific region in seeking help with regard to the South China Sea issue?
I think we've been doing what we can already with the South China Sea issue. And the American presence here and the fact that they agree with our positions is something that we find helpful. Yeah.
Follow-up, sir. Yesterday, there was a statement presented with the foreign ministers of ASEAN. The Philippines is seeking a multilateral approach in
Yeah.
solving the issue.
Yeah.
And it seems like many of the foreign ministers were cold to the idea. What is the next step for the Philippines now?
I wouldn't say many of the foreign ministers were cold to the idea. I think they've noted the position of the Philippines. I don't think there was any outright rejection of it. But you know what the ASEAN way is, no? It's not something that's going to happen overnight. We probably need to do a little bit more talking to our counterparts in the ASEAN region and explaining. But we feel that, we're not surprised, and we know that there's a lot of work that lies ahead of us, moving on with specifically the Zone of Peace, Freedom, and Cooperation, and other mechanisms that we're proposing. So that's normal. I think we just continue to do what we're doing.
So you will not be abandoning the South Sea?
No, we won't abandon that.
So relatedly, even China said that it hoped the issue of the South China Sea won't be tackled at the East Asia Summit.
Yeah, but I don't think you can avoid that happening, no? Whether it takes place formally in the sessions or on the sidelines, that will be the topic of some discussion, as it was last year.
China also rejected our proposal to hold, or that ASEAN host a summit on the issue.
Yeah, well, as I said, we'll continue to keep trying. We do have many avenues for bringing this issue to discussion, ASEAN being one of them. There are others, and we're going to explore all of those avenues. And as far as ASEAN is concerned, we're continuing to pursue that.
How important is bringing Obama into the dialogue on the dispute?
It's important in the sense that the United States and the Philippines have long-standing defense ties, and we have a mutual defense treaty. So they do have some interest in it as well. They have said that they want to re-engage in the region. So it is important that they engage in this particular issue. And we welcome, as we always have, their engagement here.
So will the President raise this during his meetings, the Zone of Peace pa rin na proposal, sir? And also, ano pa yung ibang initiatives that is going to raise with the
The
other
Zone of
leaders?
Peace, I think Secretary Del Rosario has already said in a press release that this will be brought up by the Philippine side. So there's been no change in that. We're also going to be talking about other important issues. There's labor migration. There is ASEAN economic integration. There are other maritime issues that need to be discussed as well. But yeah, of course, that's one of the issues. May I add, disaster management. It's something that we've talked about even in previous summits, and it's something that we're going to continue to try to move forward with our ASEAN partners.
And also, sir, yesterday there was a report that the ASEAN foreign ministers are supporting the chairmanship of Myanmar in 2014, ASEAN chairmanship. Is the Philippines going to support this also?
I don't know what the position is going to be at this point in time. We do note that there has been progress in Myanmar on the human rights issues. There have been political prisoners that have been freed, and we view this as an encouraging sign. But we'll cross that exact bridge when we get there. And we'll leave it to the Foreign Affairs Department to make that determination.
Sir, question on the West Philippine Sea. What prompted the Philippine government to return the vessels of Vietnam on a donation basis, even after the vessels were awarded to the Philippine government? After
There
it
was
found the
there was a
Vietnamese
process that
guilty?
we followed, and we felt that well, we'll have to ask the DFA that, but we felt that that was a gesture of goodwill.
Sir.
This as the dampening of efforts on the part of our law enforcers for
No.
enforcing our laws?
No. We will continue to enforce our laws, and we have discussed this with Vietnam, and we believe that this can be resolved in a way. The problem is there seem to be Vietnamese fishermen who always keep getting caught in our waters, no, and we keep having to catch them, process them. We've shown our goodwill to the Vietnamese government, and we're looking for ways to resolve this in a way that is satisfactory to both parties. But no, we will continue to enforce our laws. There's no question about that.
Kung hindi siya makaka-attend sa Saturday sa EAS, are we still going to push for the inclusion of the West Philippine Sea issue sa EAS? Or how will that impact kung uuwi siya ng maaga?
I'm not sure, no, kung ano yung magiging schedule ni Pangulo, if he will or will not attend. But the issues that we intend to put on the agenda will remain on the agenda. Kung sakali, oo. Kung sakaling hindi mag-attend si Pangulo.
Sorry. Can you just give us an idea kung bakit may ganung possibility na uuwi siya ng maaga?
I'm not exactly sure why. Siguro when they finish discussing with SFA, I'll have a better idea why. Pero sa ngayon, I'm not exactly sure.
Sir, balik lang dun sa West Philippine Sea. What exactly will we ask from the US on that issue?
I'm not at
voting.
liberty to say specifics of what we're going to discuss, no. I gave you the broad strokes, I gave Marie the broad strokes. That's all I can say about it for now. Maybe after the discussions, we'll have more to say.
Sir, push ko lang. Kasi when you were asked a while ago, ang sagot ninyo was because we have a long-standing relationship with the US
Yes,
on defense cooperation.
yes.
How will that...
And economic ties.
Yeah, defense and economic ties. How
Yeah.
will that play a role dun sa issue ng West Philippine Sea?
I would think that's the backdrop or the context in which these discussions are between Obama and President Aquino will take place, no? What I'm trying to give you is the context. That's the background under which specifics will be discussed. As to what the specifics are, I'm not aware personally of what exactly will be discussed, no? Pero along those broad strokes.
A strengthened defense ties with the US will help us or will put us in a better position to negotiate?
Strengthened defense ties with the U.S., I think, in general, will help build our defense capabilities. So, we've had to play catch-up with our ASEAN neighbors. You can see the naval capability of many of our ASEAN neighbors has exceeded ours. And we really need to do some catching up as far as defense capability is concerned. To the extent that the Americans can help us there, then that's always welcome.
How important does the Philippines view the United States as a counterweight or counterbalance to the Chinese military presence and economic presence in the region, specifically with regard to the West Philippine Sea?
In as much as we think that it's a stabilizing force to have many different players involved in the South China Sea issue or the West Philippine Sea issue, the more players there are, the more voices there are, I think will lend to more stability in the region with regard to dealing with this issue.
Sir, aren't you frustrated that the dialogue partners are more receptive to the idea rather than ASEAN itself?
No, that's the way ASEAN is. A lot of people sometimes express frustration at what they perceive to be the slow pace in ASEAN, but you have to understand that we have different political systems, different levels of economic and political development, and you cannot expect ASEAN to be like an EU, where there's much more history, much more integration. So I think sometimes the frustration of outsiders comes from the fact that they tend subliminally to compare ASEAN to the EU. And we in ASEAN understand that that's not the case. So we accept that things move a little differently with ASEAN than they do, say, with the EU. And it doesn't necessarily frustrate us. We accept that.
Sir, Myanmar will take over the co-chairmanship of the Philippines in the ASEAN-US summit. What advice can we give to Myanmar insofar as engaging the US and under human rights issues concerned?
I would not presume to give advice to another country on how they should deal with the chairmanship of any of these ASEAN bodies. I don't think that would be our place to say anything.
US to lift the sanctions it has imposed on Myanmar?
I don't think that's in the cards right now. I'm not aware that there's any, let me be more specific, Joyce. I am not aware that there's any plan by our country to call for the lifting of sanctions at this point. As I've said, we view what's happened in recent months as encouraging, but we also think that more needs to be done. Okay?
Do we take it to mean, sir, that where the president cannot sit, the DFA can stand in? Will that be the?
Yeah. Remember last year, at Hanoi, President Yudhoyono of Indonesia had to leave because of a domestic situation. There was a volcanic eruption. So he attended part of the summit, nagkaroon ng volcanic eruption. He left, he went back to Indonesia, and it was his foreign minister who took his place. So there are protocols naman for situations like that.
Secretary, just going back to the frustrations that particular ASEAN member countries feel about their colleagues. Secretary Del Rosario,
What frustrations?
you mentioned something about frustrations earlier
Yeah,
about
what
the
I was-
slow pace
what I was
of
saying
the
was that-
ASEAN process.
Yeah, let me just clarify now. I was saying that people from the outside tend to view it with some frustration. If you look at some of the commentary, for example, if you read the Financial Times yesterday, there was a long editorial about exactly that, no? What they say, the slow pace. As I was saying, these frustrations tend to come from the outside, from people who don't really, who tend to subliminally compare ASEAN to other regional groupings. But we've accepted that that's the way ASEAN is, no? So I wouldn't say that we're frustrated by it. I would say that I would note, as many of you have, that people outside who have expressed some frustration.
Actually, a few days ago, Secretary Del Rosario said that political and economic considerations have become some sort of bottleneck in the Philippines' efforts to push forward our concerns in the South China Sea. And I would just like to ask you to expound on that, on those political and economic considerations that other ASEAN member countries have been prioritizing over a regional concern like the WPS.
Well, in our particular case, we would like to see progress on that faster rather than at the pace that they're going. You know, I think that's no secret. We want to get everybody on board with our proposals for dealing with West Philippine Sea at a quicker time. But as I said, no, and as Secretary Del Rosario said, ASEAN works at its pace, and it's difficult for us to speed that up. And we just have to continue working within what they call the ASEAN way. Not all ASEAN countries are claimants. And I think there's a reluctance on the part of some ASEAN countries to get so deeply involved in an issue where they're not directly affected. And that may be part of the reason why it's difficult to get everybody on board right away. Yeah, I won't comment on that.
Just the perceived reluctance by some countries not to get too deeply involved in an issue that they're not part of, like the non-claimants. Was this factored in when we created this SOFIC?
Absolutely. We knew exactly what we were dealing with. We knew exactly what to expect when we came up with these proposals. That's why it's difficult to say we're frustrated, because we're not, because we understood this from the beginning, that this is how it would go, and that it would take some time for us to get everybody on board. So it's not a surprise. We knew this was all factored in. So we're moving ahead exactly as we expected to.
What are your other options aside from ASEAN?
I'll leave that to the DFA. Some of that has been discussed already, but I'll leave that to the DFA to determine.
I just want to know if I can connect yung reluctance ng non-claimant countries with the statement of Secretary Del Rosario that the political and economic ties with China have created a bottleneck for our push for the SOFIC. So basically, because economic interests of ASEAN countries, because of their economic ties with China, China has played its China card, its economic card, to influence the stance of other ASEAN member countries?
I will not go that specific. What I will say is that the different political and economic considerations of each country and their priorities aren't always the same as ours. And I think that's why some people view it with more urgency, like us in Vietnam. Some people will view it with less urgency because it's less central to them.
Question kasi is that in many ASEAN meetings, there was always this push for ASEAN centrality.
Yeah,
And that's what the Philippines is saying now, that we should stand together as ASEAN
yeah,
instead of separate countries.
yes, absolutely. And we continue to push for that.
But you were just saying that the political and economic considerations of each country are not always the same.
Yeah.
And so now the ASEAN centrality is not,
No, it
The
doesn't mean we're
dominant
abandoning the idea of ASEAN
no, but
centrality.
the other countries.
Yeah, it
have.
doesn't mean we're abandoning the idea of ASEAN centrality. We still believe in the idea of ASEAN centrality in dealing with this issue. We're simply acknowledging a reality that there are different priorities of different countries, and it's going to take more work for us to bring them on board, to give this issue the importance that we feel it should be given.
So are the other ASEAN countries giving the same importance to ASEAN centrality? Or are their specific national interests more important to them?
You'll have to ask them.
What does the Philippines think?
We think that there are always issues where your national interest will override any regional interest. But we also believe that in this particular case, the regional interest is in sync with our national interest. And it's a question of convincing everybody else that that's the same thing.
So, sir, you're not abandoning the idea, even if it seems that they're abandoning you.
No, we're not abandoning it. We're going to continue to
No,
push
they're
it.
the ones abandoning you.
No, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. No one has outright said, we will not do this. They've not categorically endorsed it, but no one has actually said, we won't do it. So the door remains open. Yeah, well, we'll work on him too. Yeah.
In the region, everybody has always said that the Philippines is a beacon for democracy in Asia. And it seems like certain quarters are feeling that the Philippines coming on board to accept Myanmar as a chair for the 2014 ASEAN is something that goes against the grain of what the Philippines stands for. May I get your comment on this?
Jason, there are two schools of thought here, no, with regard to Myanmar. One is you give them sanctions, you play hardball with them. That has been the approach of Western countries in the past. The ASEAN way has always been, rather than hit them with a stick, encourage them with a carrot. And there are different ways to promote democracy and human rights in countries such as Myanmar. And one approach is not necessarily superior to the other. No? So if just because the Philippines does not appear to be behaving in one way does not mean that it's not doing its own work to encourage these reforms.
Sorry.
There are different approaches to encouraging democratic reform. Not all of them require you to speak loudly in a public forum.
Sir, si Surin Pitsuan said that in the EAS declaration, the ASEAN leaders will include a statement calling on the all dialogue partners to parang commit to a set of norms, including the respect for international laws and seeking diplomatic ways to address or to resolve conflict. How will this, or these disputes rather, how will this affect our initiative
I
on
think
the
it-
WPS?
I think it actually bolsters our initiative. If you look at what we've been trying to do on this issue since we became engaged in it, it's always been through that, through the observance and the adherence to international law, the number one, through the use of diplomatic channels, through diplomatic initiatives. That's exactly the way that the Philippines has been approaching this. And I think that statement, if it comes out that way, in effect bolsters what we've been trying to do. Thank you.